We have questions on alternate history, St. John Bosco, and finally we have arrived at the last date of the week. Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu, now being broadcast and podcast on the Crusade Channel. Talk radio the way it should be at crusadechannel.com. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with a Romanesque Charles Coulombe.
Romanesque? You mean like the architectural style?
Yeah, it's nice.
So I become like a monument. Is that what you're saying?
You're monumental.
I'm like a UNESCO World Heritage Site. A gift to the nation, if you will.
I think that's fair.
Okay, fine. I can live with that. I don't mind.
Good.
I don't mind. I do love Romanesque architecture. You know, the Romanesque churches in Cologne, and even a few of them left in Rome, of all places.
Yeah.
You know what are the big differences between Romanesque and Gothic architecture, which developed out of it?
What?
The arches. They're all rounded in Romanesque because they hadn't figured out how to shift the weight of the walls so they could make the big soaring things. Those are the flying buttresses and all this stuff came in. So anyway, well, that's all right. All right, fine. I'm Romanesque. I don't care. Be that way.
Would you rather be Gothic?
They're both very beautiful styles, actually. I mean, I wouldn't mind being either one, to be honest. Charlemagne's wonderful cathedral in Aachen is, well, it's actually both. The center of it is Romanesque, but it has a Gothic choir that was added to it. It's very beautiful.
You're really astute when it comes to architecture. I have no idea. I would totally fumble when it comes to identifying what element is what.
Well, that's because you had the tower built in brutalist style. I mean, I knew when I saw the thing going up that you really had it out for the neighborhood.
Well, I mean, you have to convey power and authority, you know?
Yeah, well, what you conveyed was to all of Arcadia. That's what you conveyed. And you know, you showed a lot of disrespect to your hometown. Do you know Arcadia has a lot of royal connections?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it did. You had a Danish prince living in Arcadia in the 20s and 30s who had a chicken farm. And you can actually go to that chicken farm. It's in the Lutheran, or no, the Congregational Church on, oh heavens. What's the big north-south street in
Santa
Arcadia?
Anita?
Yes. Santa Anita and not Duarte further south. It's by your place, or your old place.
Live Oak, Lower Azusa, Las Tunas?
Las Tunas. You know, by where the old St. George's was, only it's across the street.
Oh, okay, I've been there. Okay. I don't think there's a chicken farm there anymore, Charles.
Well, there isn't, but the house that was the center of the chicken farm is on the grounds of the Congregational Church. And they have a name for it.
How could you even know that? How could you know that?
Because I know stuff.
That's amazing to me. That's so... it's not a matter of being stupid or smart. That's just so obscure. Like, even... I mean, even if you had gone to the place, how do you pick up that knowledge? It's so esoteric.
Well, what can I tell you? I know stuff. Actually, I may have the wrong church. Let's see. Prince Denmark, Arcadia, CA. All right.
What was with you and your love of that buffet, by the way? You had a special attachment to that buffet. What's going on?
I did. It's Arcadia Congregational Church. Now, oh, there you go. home of Prince Eric of Denmark in the 1920s at 2607 South Santa Anita, home of Prince Eric of Denmark in the 1920s. Property now owned by the Arcadia Congregational Church. So there.
I wasn't challenging you in any way. But well done.
It's called Prince Eric Hall. They call that.
Okay.
It says in 1924, Prince Eric of Denmark married the Booth lumber fortune heiress of Canada and came to Arcadia to live. He bought 8 acres of land on the northwest corner of Santa Anita Avenue in Las Tunas. There he built a stately home incorporating the style of his country. Numerous hen houses were erected on the property. He assumed American ways, donned old clothes, and worked beside his help on the ranch, raising poultry for a hobby. He and his wife lived there until 1928, when they left the ranch and went back to Denmark. The prince returned to the ranch in 1938 to dispose of the property, as he and his wife had parted and then divorced. The property now belongs to the Arcadia Congregational Church, and the house, named Prince Eric Hall, contains the office of the Arcadia Historical Society. So what do you say to that, smart guy?
Dude, I haven't challenged you on one iota, okay? You're info dumping, and I'm embracing it just as the rest of the audience is. What do you want from me?
I want you to admit that Arcadia is a royal city.
Okay, Arcadia's a royal city, and I'm proud to be king of it now. All right,
because it has another royal connection, smart one.
Okay, great. Let's hear about it. This is
fine.
Wonderful.
You know the Serbian Orthodox Church on Rosemead, across from the.
That's Greek Orthodox.
No. I'm talking about the one on. It's south of Duarte on. Well, you know where the 24-hour Rite Aid is.
I guess so. I don't know. Rite Aids are a dime a dozen. Okay.
It's where the Colonial Pharmacy used to be. It's right. It's across the street from that. If you remember the Colonial Pharmacy.
Sure.
So that's Christ the Savior Serbian Orthodox Church. And it was the site of the only state funeral for a formerly reigning monarch in the United States in 1971.
Wait, what monarch?
A formerly reigning monarch.
Yeah, I know. You said that.
He was deposed.
Is it the emperor in San Francisco? Who is it?
No, King Peter II of Yugoslavia.
So why did that come to pass?
Well, he had lived in California. Remember, he was in exile because of the commies. So he lives in California, but he goes to Colorado. He dies there in 71. There were no Serbian Orthodox churches in Colorado then, so they brought him back to Christ our Savior, where he had apparently attended when he was in LA. They had a funeral for him, and then they shipped his body to a Serbian Orthodox monastery in Libertyville, Illinois. And there it sat until a few years ago when his son, Crown Prince Alexander, now living in Belgrade, had the body brought back to Serbia and placed in the great funerary church of Oplanac with his ancestors.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Arcadia has not one but 2 royal sites.
Oh, that's something to be proud of. Thank you for telling me that, Charles.
Yeah, glad to do it.
Where did King Kigeli get buried?
He got buried probably in Washington D.C., but that's or in Virginia, but that's good. Oh no, they sent the body home to Rwanda.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure. Let me make sure I know what I'm talking about.
So that's interesting because he was in exile just as the king of Yugoslavia is, but then he got shipped back. So
as the king of Yugoslavia did eventually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was really, really a wonderful fellow. Let me see. He died in Washington, D.C. But where was he buried? It doesn't say. Wikipedia, home of all truth, doesn't know.
All right, Charles, dead air time.
All right, we don't want any dead air time, but what we do want, and we certainly want it, is what do you say? A little bit of calendar lore.
Okay,
Are you
great.
ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he was in fact he was. I found it. He was in fact buried at the Royal Mausoleum in Rwanda. So there you go. He did go home finally.
Nice.
All right. So apart from dead air time, today in real time is June 10th, 2023. Now, June 10th has several important significances. Are you ready? Can you dig it?
Yeah.
All right. For one thing, it is Saturday in the octave of Corpus Christi. And I am still glowing from the Corpus Christi procession I took part in on last Thursday, which was Corpus Christi Day.
Hmm.
The Feast of Corpus Christi in civilized places. In dumpy ones, it's not. In dumps.
Is June 10th anything like Juneteenth? Does that have anything?
No.
No?
No relationship.
No, really.
But, no relationship. But what it also has, oh, and by the way, next week, Thursday, is the octave day of Corpus Christi. The following day, the Friday, is the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And that's an important feast for Catholic militants because, of course, the Sacred Heart was the badge used by so many of the French counter-revolutionaries in the Vendée, the Chouannerie, and things like that. Andreas Hofer in the Tyrol fighting Napoleon. The Carlists in Spain, the Cristeros in Mexico, the Papal Zouaves. So, militant Catholics, be aware, Feast of the Sacred Heart, important day, this Friday. But wait, there's more. Because today is June 10th, not Juneteenth, June 10th, which is called White Rose Day. And the reason why it's called White Rose Day is because it is the day that the son of the exiled James II, James III, although he was born in England, was born. And the Jacobites took it as their big feast day ever after. So if you're a big lover of things Jacobite or any kind of legitimist, Carlist, Miguelist, whatever you like, this is a great day to celebrate. Also, if you're kind of a cavalier and like Charles I, great day. In fact, it was because James III was born today that the Pope moved the feast day of St. Margaret of Scotland to the 10th of June. And it wouldn't be moved again until 1969 when calendar designers, who were obviously not Jacobites, moved it. But never you mind. Today is White Rose Day, the feast of St. Margaret of Scotland, the birthday of James III, a great day to celebrate the Jacobites. But in recent years, it's become something else. Are you ready?
What?
World Art Nouveau Day. And if you're a devotee of the Art Nouveau style, and I am, this is a great day to bone up on one of your favorite architectural and artistic styles. Now, closely allied to the Art Nouveau is what was called the arts and crafts style. Now, why do you think that's important for you, sitting there in your luxurious suite in Arcadia?
Why is Arts and Crafts Day important for me?
Well, it's Art Nouveau Day, but why are the arts and crafts movement that was so closely linked to the Art Nouveau movement, why are the arts and crafts movement so important to you personally?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm glad you asked that question. The answer is that from the arts and crafts movement in general, in England and Europe and America and so forth, developed the Southern California bungalow. So you see all those craftsman-style houses / bungalow in Monrovia, Bungalow Heaven in Pasadena, the Gamble House in Pasadena. That all comes from that. And that's why your friends at the Huntington Library have so much arts and crafts stuff on exhibit in their museum.
Wow.
So now, don't you feel better?
I do. I didn't know that was like an intentional style that was developed. I never think of that, because I live here. You don't think of things being a type. It just is the bungalow.
People come from all the California bungalow. People come from all over the world to go to Bungalow Heaven in Pasadena, to Monrovia, to the Gamble House.
I never
to
even
gawk
heard of the Bungalow Heaven other than when I saw it on Google Maps, and I was like, oh, that's unusual. They call it Bungalow Heaven. Yep, those are houses that are California. Okay,
and it comes out of the arts and crafts style, which ultimately comes to us from England and Europe, and it's closely connected, although distinct, from the Art Nouveau style. And today is World Art Nouveau Day.
I do really like the porches. I like that aspect. Just a nice porch. I appreciate a good front porch.
Yeah.
So
I'm wondering if there's a World Arts and Crafts Day. Well, it's an International Craft Day, but Arts and Crafts Movement Day. Apparently not. There are overviews, introductions, all kinds of good stuff. But so I guess we're gonna kind of have to stick with Art Nouveau Day. But never mind, it doesn't matter. And also, they were both connected to the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, in some sense, the Oxford movement, and ultimately an expression of Romanticism. So there.
Okay. All right.
Do you feel more in tune with Arcadia and the surrounding towns?
I do. Thank you for that, Charles.
Do you feel like they have something to offer?
Of course I have something to offer.
Not you. Do you feel as though they have something to offer?
Something to offer me?
Well, people in general.
People in general.
You too,
yes,
sure. You're a person.
Of course.
You're a person.
I am a person, Charles. And
you are a person. So you feel that Temple City has a lot to offer.
I like Temple City, actually.
Have you been to their historical museum?
I didn't even know they had a historical museum.
They do. It's by the library. How about the Arcadia Historical Museum?
I went to that, the Gilb, and which I accidentally mispronounced as glib, and you had to laugh at my expense.
I'm sure they would have done that. How about the Monrovia Historical Museum?
I went to I took my wife to the farmers market there 2 weeks ago, and we enjoyed ourselves. On the Friday market thing. I don't know where that is. It's probably in Old Town, right?
No, well, near it. It's in Monrovia Park. It's near the. It's in the former swimming building.
The YMCA, you mean?
Yeah, not the YMCA. You know where Immaculate Conception Church is?
Yeah. Okay, I know
right
exactly
next door. It's next door to that.
Okay.
And that's where that's where you'll find the thing. Ladies and gentlemen, isn't this wonderful? We're able to discuss over 6,000 miles of distance these important local things. You asked about Sir George's buffet.
Yeah.
The reason why Sir George's Smorgasbord was so important is that it was the last branch of a formerly nationwide chain. There was big stuff in the 60s and 70s. My brother and I ate there a lot.
It's also named
in
after
many
a
different
king.
places. Well, Sir George. It wasn't.
Sir George. Excuse me. Yeah.
But no. But the one in Arcadia was the very last of the whole bunch, and oh, were we saddened when it closed down. You seem a bit unimpressed.
I remember seeing it. I wish I could shed a tear for it, but you know, the gift of tears is not given to everyone, Charles.
So you wouldn't eat there, is what you're saying?
I didn't say that at all. I didn't say that at all. I just don't have a lot of experience. I think they must have tore it down when I was like 5 or something like that, and I never got a chance to
No.
eat there. Yeah, it was a long time ago, Charles.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it. Charles.
Yeah. Oh, are we going to play this game? All right, fine. I don't care. I'll do it. You want to play it? I'll play it. So George's Arcadia. Oh, it's still got a Yelp thing. What do you say?
That's.
Yeah, it's still got its Yelp thing up. Oh, it's got a 4-star rating. How about that? Yeah, it was still going in 2012. So there. I feel good about myself. I feel like I'm somehow justified.
I don't know what's happening. All right, whatever.
No, 2009 it closed.
2009.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, look! I don't believe it. Listen to this. Listen to this. Oh man, this is what an annoying thing. This is a review from 2008. Watered down food, an ounce of meat on a rib, cold shriveled up chicken, days old fried chicken reused for chicken soup. Shall I continue? Maybe I should. I used to go to this place when it opened in Alhambra back in the old days. However, I felt compelled to write a review due to the poor service the owner has given me. My party sat down for 30 minutes. We were practically full before even being met by the waiter. No drinks or service. When I complained, I guess I was wrong. Buyer beware is his attitude. The owner is a tall old white guy with glasses. He is very rude and does not know what good customer service is. If you enjoy poor quality economical food, then this is the place for you. If you want a restaurant that cares about you, maybe you might want to go to Hometown Buffet or Sizzling. That's on a par. That's on a par with a another review of another place. I can't help myself, ladies and gentlemen. I really can't. There used to be. It's gone now. It was. It's not going down. It was made over to student apartments for some deal or other. But there was a hotel in Hollywood called the Mark Twain. And it was really, really run down. I mean, it was incredibly bad. And I can't forbear to repeat this because the review was just so funny. Unfortunately, you can't stay there, but it's really jolly. It's almost as bad as what you just heard. It's really, really horrible. Here it is. Review of the historic Mark Twain Hotel in Hollywood. Quote, the best of Hollywood's depraved crack hotels. Looking for a place to hide from everyone and do drugs while catching bugs and a possible infectious disease or two? Mark Twain is just the place for you. Just want to hang out and play with your favorite hooker? Sorry, no visitors. Which makes me wonder how the place got so disgusting, one person at a time. And the smell is Hollywood at its finest. A fun place to recommend to your mother-in-law when she comes to town. Isn't that a wonderful review?
That's an epic review. I've never heard such a good review.
Fun place to put your mother-in-law when she's in town. Want to play Monopoly with your favorite hooker? Sorry, no visitors. Which makes you wonder how it got so disgusting, one person at a time. one of the best of Hollywood's crack hotels. What a hide from everybody while you do drugs. Oh man. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You can check into the Mark Twain and get a quick bite at the St. George's. I don't think either reviewer really had a good time in either place. That would be my guess.
Oh man, angry reviews are fun. I really enjoy angry reviews. Do you ever do that when you're buying something on a website? The critical reviews are always the most interesting.
Oh yeah, well, people really do get bent out of shape about stuff.
Yeah.
And I the funny thing is that white guy he talks about, of course, he had to mention he was a white guy, which an old white guy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to break the news. Despite the rumors, despite what you may have heard in the tabloids, I'm an old white guy, ladies and gentlemen. I am a dead white European male. It's true.
You're dead?
Well, we've been trying to keep it from the press, but experts agree I'm not feeling well.
All right, shall we move on from the Mark Twain and St. George's?
No, actually, I think we should check into the Mark Twain for a week. We'll get separate rooms, and then we can stagger over to the St. George's for 3 meals a day. If you dislike their lunch and dinner, you'll find their breakfast really horrifying. Nothing quite like powdered eggs in the morning, I'll tell you.
All right. No memes today, but we have one fun comment from Ryan. So this is relating to Charles's State of the Week last week, which was Louisiana. And Ryan says, Charles forgot the house in New Orleans. They call the Rising Sun.
Yeah, well, I also, when I described California, I didn't talk about the Mark Twain Hotel.
Ooh. So
the house of the Rising Sun is a house of ill repute. You see, all right, let me explain this, especially for those of you who don't know. There is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun. It's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know I'm one. My mother was a tailor. She sold my old blue jeans. My father was a gambling man down in New Orleans. Now, the only thing a gambler is a smile and a trunk. The only time that he is satisfied is when he's on the bunk. So mothers, as I have done, to stay away from pain and misery in the house of the Rising Sun. I'm going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. I'm going back, something, to the house of the Rising Sun. Is that helpful?
That is helpful. Thank you for that rendition.
Where would you rather go, the house of the Rising Sun or the Mark Twain?
Mark Twain. Mark Twain sounds fun. It sounds like a sightseeing tour.
Oh, it doesn't, especially if you bring your mother-in-law and drop her off. But you like your mother-in-law. That's no help at all.
Yep. All right. So the moment has finally arrived. We are down to the last state of the week. Can you believe it?
We went through 50 states, 50 of the United States.
Do you know what the last one is? Oh, what?
No, before you tell me. Here's the question. Do we want to expand the process and go on to the territories, none of which I've been to.
Well, if you haven't been to them, what are the territories? Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, Guam, the Northern Marianas.
No one wants to hear about Puerto Rico.
What?
Yeah.
Have you any idea how many West Side Story fans we have in the audience?
No clue. I don't like the West Side Story, actually.
You don't?
No.
All right.
Do you like the West Side Story?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great, and I think that any Puerto Rican would respond to what I'm about to say. I really do. And what I've got to say is, Puerto Rico, you lovely island of tropical breezes, always the pineapples growing, always the coffee blossoms blowing. Puerto Rico, my heart's devotion, let it sink back in the ocean. Always the hurricanes blowing, always the population growing, and the money owing, and as the sunlight streaming, and the natives steaming. I like the island of Manhattan. Smoke on your pipe and put that in. Puerto Rico, you ugly island of tropic diseases, always the hurricanes blowing, always the population growing, and the money owing, and the babies crying, and the bullets flying. I like the island of Manhattan. Smoke that on your pipe and put that in. I like to be in America. Okay by me in America. Everything free in America for a small fee in America. I like to be in America. Okay by me in America. Everything free in America for a small fee in America. Buying on credit is so nice. One look at us and they charge twice. I like the city of San Juan. I know a boat you can get on. I'll have my own washing machine. What will you have, though, to keep clean? Hundreds of flowers in full bloom. Hundreds of people in each room. Skyscrapers bloom in America. Cadillacs zoom in America. Industry boom in America. 12 in a room in America. Automobile in America. Chromium steel in America. Wire spoke wheel in America. Very big deal in America. I'll drive a Buick through San Juan if there's a road you can drive on. I'll give my cousins a free ride. How can you get them all inside? Oh, man. Everywhere crime in America, organized crime in America, terrible time in America.
What in the world is that from?
West Side Story.
Is it?
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't remember that.
Oh, maybe you don't remember the movie, but you'll make judgments. I get it.
Well, it's a very forgettable movie.
Oh,
Natalie Wood was the girl. Natalie Wood, right? Yeah, so I remember that.
The sort of wood that doesn't float.
I like the song about the cop.
Officer Krumke, you don't understand?
Because, and I kind of remember that because my brother sang that at kind of a performance type thing for our church, probably about 30 years ago. He was one of the, like, it was like, you know, the stage we have at the hall.
Yeah.
And anyhow, he was one of the actors in it, and they did a lot of scenes from popular movies, and that was one of them.
I remember when he did that. Now that you mention it.
Yeah.
Officer Krumke, you don't understand.
Yeah. Well, his big one was actually the scene from the Sound of Music. You Are 16 Going on 17. He was he was the other half of that. I thought he did that very well. But anyhow,
well, you know, there's one tune for that movie that people always get wrong. They always mix up the lyrics.
I know what you're going to say. The hills are alive and they're out to get me.
That's right.
I know you.
The hills are alive and they're out to get you. La, 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 la. Yes, well, there you are, ladies and gentlemen. So what else we got going?
We got the state of the week.
And then what is the state of the week, out of curiosity? Oh, but do you want to do the territories, or should we do Canadian provinces?
I think I want to ask the patrons because I know a lot of people do. So I think the state of the week was kind of polarizing because I was looking at the charts, and the watch time would drop whenever it hits the state of the week. So I feel like if it's your state, it's really interesting, or if it's a state you're interested in. But if it's not, then it's skip time. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, why don't we give them 4 choices? Are you ready?
Okay.
European countries, Canadian provinces, Australian states, and drop the whole thing.
Okay. I'll pull the patrons that. If you're not a patron, then you have no say. But if you are a patron, you have a say. So now's the time. If you want your vote, your voice to be heard, now's the time to become a patron. $5 a month.
And if you're $5 a month, and if you're Australian, Canadian, or European, you have a chance to stand up for your beloved country, province, or state.
Indeed. All right. Okay. State of the week. State of the week. Any of you out there know what the last state is? The final state?
Confusion.
You're not too far off.
Hysteria.
It is California, the Golden State, the best for last.
Oh, California, here I come, right back where I started from. Well, you know, it's funny you did that because I got a text today from none other than our governor.
I didn't know you two were close.
I didn't either, but apparently we're buds. It was kind of a shock to me, but you know, what are you gonna do? He, let me see. Yeah, here it is. He says, this is Governor Newsom. See, there's his picture.
Mm-hmm.
See him? See the moron? See Dum Dum?
Yeah. Okay.
See Stuffy Smith?
Okay.
See the big face?
Okay, get him off the screen. All right.
So here's what the little moron says. Hey, Roy Charles. Gavin Newsom here. Oh, isn't that sweet? Like he knows me. Writing to let you know California will be taking the first step to amend the United Constitution on guns. The 28th Amendment will raise the minimum age to buy a firearm, mandate universal background checks, institute a reasonable waiting period for gun purchases, and ban civilian purchase of assault weapons. We need 33 more states to get it done. That's why I'm asking for your help. Will you sign my petition supporting a constitutional amendment on gun violence? It's a small and simple act, but will send a powerful message about the size and strength of this effort. Add your name here at GavinNewsom.com. Go 28th Amendment. Congress has not done enough. The courts prevent Congress and the states from doing what has to be done. Given that reality, it's up to us together to act. The 28th Amendment. It's time. Add your name if you agree at GavinNewsom.com, blah, blah. Thanks, Gavin Newsom. Stop to stop. And I responded. I sent him one sentence. Stop murdering infants and we'll talk.
It's funny. I went a different direction because that's obviously a partisan issue, or at least he views it that way.
Well, yeah, because he's a piece of garbage, which is fine.
Even something that in our current political context is universal. That just makes me want to come out with the bumper sticker. Solve the homeless crisis or shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth. There's more homeless than ever, and you have no bloody idea what to do. and it seems like you don't care. So, and you're raving about guns? What the hell is the matter with you, sir?
Well, I know what to do with the homeless problem.
What?
Send them to Sacramento.
Now that would get it. Then that's gosh, that is genius, actually.
I'm telling you, you get the mayor. You get the mayor of Los Angeles, the mayors of San Diego, San Francisco, etc., and we just ship them all to Sacramento. Let them camp in the capital.
There's been talk of where it's it's just a matter of housing the homeless, right? Oh, you need it. We need to build houses. Let's do that in Sacramento. What finer place, right?
Yeah. In fact, let me show you my idea of homeless housing. All right, and I can think of a couple of really good places. Here's one, which I think it's got a lot of space, a lot of room in it, and I think it would be perfect for the homeless. So here it is. You saw it. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I admit, there's not all that much vision in the world right now, but we have a little on this show. Here it is. This would be, I would call it Homeless Manor.
Am I gonna? Okay, that's the capital of California.
Yeah, they can live there, and there's more. There's another place that I would turn over to the homeless as a residence.
Probably the City Hall of San Francisco. I don't know.
No. This one is you'll see. Oh, the moron Newsom refused to live in the governor's mansion, so the state are supporting him and his brood in this place, which is where the homeless should also be housed. There you go.
Is that his residence?
Yep.
I'm not showing that. I can't show these things on the internet. So
yeah, it's on the internet.
Okay, well, great. Let's leave it wherever it is.
Anyway, no, but that's Newsom's mansion, and it's paid for by the state of California. Awesome. That is by the suffering slaves who were stupid enough to reelect him. He.
All right.
Listen to this. Oh man, yeah. It's the governor's mansion is much smaller. You know how much this new house is costing? $3.7 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So Dum isn't so dumb after all.
No.
Would you call a parasite stupid?
Charles, the State of the Week of California is designed to elicit positive feelings, good vibes, right? You've done this well for every state, but California, I feel like we've lost sight of that.
All right, I will tell you what I love about California, though it doesn't include the parasite Newsom and his suckers sucking off everything.
Okay.
Piece of garbage. Anyway, what? What's wrong with having a governor who's an utter piece of garbage? Many states do that. Why should we be different? If I were going to design a tour of California, my favorite spots, I would actually start in the far south of the state, in San Diego. There is so much to see in San Diego, ladies and gentlemen. Mission San Diego, of course, was the first of the 21 missions. And it is where Father Serra started out. It's a lovely place. Balboa Park is filled with extraordinary museums. The downtown section of San Diego features the U.S. Grand Hotel with its signature mock turtle soup. You won't get that in many places anymore. But out on Coronado Island is the Hotel Del Mar, Really, really wonderful place. The Presidio, the Father Serra Museum and Presidio Park are also worth seeing. And of course, nipping over the border into Tijuana and the fabulous Hotel Rosarito and Rosarito Beach are pretty neat too. And you might say it's not California, but it is. It's Baja California. But turning north, we leave San Diego. We go by Del Mar with the fabulous racetrack where the surf meets the turf in Old Del Mar. Yeah, where the surf meets the turf in Old Del Mar. Take a plane, take a train, take a car. There's a winner in every race and a smile on every face where the surf meets the turf in Del Mar. Bing Crosby sang that. But you keep going north along the coast. Oh, it's a lovely, lovely coast. And you will come to Mission San Luis Rey. Again, the second mission. Lovely area around. Nearby is Prince of Peace Abbey. Also worth seeing. And then you go north still into southern Orange County, and you come to San Juan Capistrano. When the swallows come back to Capistrano. Again, really beautiful area. The little town of San Juan Capistrano is also very, very worth seeing. But you go up the coast even further, you'll come to Newport Beach. And if you go to Newport Beach on Fashion Island, you'll find the Village Inn, which your brother and I used to drink at heavily after Mass. We called it the Village Idiot, but it was a nice place. But you're going to keep going north. And from San Juan Capistrano, there are all sorts of things. I miss Leo Carrillo State Park, but that's in Orange County. His hacienda. Disneyland, of course, is in Orange County. Knott's Berry Farm. Disneyland, of course, you may or may not want to boycott it, depending on what Disney is doing recently. But nevertheless, that's where it is. Then you move into fabulous Los Angeles County. Now, if you go east from Los Angeles County, you'll come into the fabulous Inland Empire. There's really not all that much to see out there, but you can go to the Tartan Room in Redlands and the Abraham Lincoln Shrine, also in Redlands. But coming back to LA.
Wait, in Inland Empire, what's your favorite hotel there?
Oh, the Narconian, of course.
No, I thought it was like the Mission Inn, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Riverside. Yeah, the Mission Inn. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely, the Mission Inn. The Narconian is out where your brother lives now, and it's been defunct for many, many years.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Mission Inn is worth seeing if you go out to Riverside. Also, Mission San Bernardino, the rebuilt version. But now we're coming into LA County. Now there is a lot to see in LA County, but a few things. We don't want to stay forever doing this. But from north to south, roughly, you could do the Queen Mary in Long Beach, the Long Beach Aquarium, King's Hawaiian, which is in Torrance, California. You know, the Alpine Village closed down. It's all gone. Downtown Los Angeles with Olvera Street, the City Hall, the Grand Central Market. Just so many really, really interesting and unusual things. Little Tokyo, Chinatown, and of course the by Olvera Street and the Plaza, the Church of Our Lady of the Queen of Angels, which is the oldest church in Los Angeles that was not connected to a mission, founded by the Spanish. And the cathedral. Can't miss out on the cathedral. It's as ugly gets. Moving into our part of the world, the beautiful San Gabriel Valley, the Huntington Library, the County Arboretum, downtown Pasadena, Bungalow Heaven. Can't forget that. Beautiful Old Town Monrovia, Old Town Pasadena. the Gamble House, the Suicide Bridge, Columbo's in Eagle Rock, and St. Dominic's in Eagle Rock. Then moving west and north a little bit from downtown, you come into Hollywood, Griffith Park, Griffith Observatory, Grauman's Chinese Theater, the fabulous Hotel Roosevelt. Oh, and downtown, I neglected to mention the Cicada Club and the Biltmore Hotel. Philippe's, the original. All that's still downtown. They're going into the valley. The valley also has the San Fernando Mission. If you go due north toward Kern County, well, we'll get there. Going west, you'll come to Santa Monica. And of course, there's a lot of beaches, old restaurants, and Santa Monica is a very nice town. I've Beverly Hills, of course, can't forget Beverly Hills, the Beverly Hills Hotel with the fabulous Polo Lounge, the Beverly Wilshire. And then Malibu, with sundry things to see in Malibu. Keep going along the coast, and you will leave Malibu behind, much as you may not want to. You come to Ventura. Mission San Buenaventura, a lot of nice, lovely places. When you're down, I neglected to mention San Pedro near Long Beach, but there's the port where you can go out to Catalina Island and Avalon. The Avalon Ballroom, various museums, restaurants, hotels, and Catalina Island itself. From San Buenaventura, you can go north to Santa Barbara. A lot to see in Montecito, the Presidio of Santa Barbara, the Mission Santa Barbara, the Port Clairs, just all sorts of. Santa Barbara is a really neat town. The Chaucer Bookshop. I mean, I could go on and on. Our Lady of Sorrows is a lovely church there, as well as the Mission. But then you could drive inland. You come to the Cold Springs Tavern near the San Marcos Pass, which for me is very much like the Inn at Brie. I love the place. But keep going north and you'll come to Santa Ynez Mission and then the Danish town of Solvang, which is a little bit of Denmark in the middle of nowhere. It's quite nice. But we're going to keep going west and north to Mission La Purissima, which is the most completely restored mission in the chain. Keep going up north. You come to San Luis Obispo, which is a lovely town, has a mission downtown, but it's a very exotic sort of place. Now, there are two ways you could go from San Luis Obispo. Oh, and of course, you've got the Madonna Inn, which has the, well, you know the Madonna Inn. You're smiling. You know the Madonna Inn. Don't want to miss the Madonna Inn.
Yeah, the bathroom, right?
Especially
the waterfall in the bathroom.
The
based on
urinal.
your advice, I just went in there just to use the bathroom and just. You can't take photographs in the bathroom, obviously, but if you're ever to photograph a bathroom, that's one to photograph. I'll tell you that.
That'd be the one you take a photograph of, absolutely. But now you've got to choose: are you going to go to the coast? Or you're going to go inland. So let's say you go inland to start. You go inland, you'll keep going north from San Luis Obispo. You'll come to the town of San Miguel Arcangel, and San Miguel has again. Wonderful old mission, very old California atmosphere. Now, if you want to stay with the Mission Trail, you're going to get off the 101. You're going to go to the Fort Hunter Liggett Reservation and come to San Antonio de Pala, which is by itself. Nearby, though, also on the Hunter Liggett Reservation, is one of William Randolph Hearst's hunting lodges. And it's worth seeing. But you keep going north, you'll come to a very sad mission, La Soledad, which means the solitude. And it really Really it's quite the place. But then you keep north, and you'll come eventually to, and from Salinas, you can cut, or yeah, and you will come to Monterey. Now we're backtrack all the way back to San Luis Obispo. We're going to go up the coast. We come to the uber cute town of Cambria. Lots of little restaurants to eat in, and the toy soldier shop, and it's the late lamented Brambles is gone, sadly enough, the Brambles Dinner House, but I used to love it. You keep going up the coast, you will go through Big Sur. You will come to towns like Lone Pine, well, not really towns, not Lone Pine, Ragged Point, Gorda, Lucia. These little lodges along the road that are very, very pleasant. But the the scenery is amazing. Oh, and I'm sorry, from Cambria, before you get to Big Sur, you will come to San Simeon and Hearst Castle, and that's really worth seeing. So you keep going up the Big Sur coast as I've described it, till you come to the town of Big Sur, and there you can stop by Nepenthe. I love Nepenthe. It's a restaurant. It's got a gift shop. It's amazing. You keep going, and you will the road will turn. You'll be in the Carmel Highlands, and then you will see high on a hill the Carmel of Carmel, the Carmelite monastery, and it's one of my favorite places in California. But shortly after that, you'll come to my favorite place in California, which is Carmel Mission, and there is Saint Junipero Serra enshrined. And the Monterey Peninsula as a whole, which includes Carmel Mission, Pebble Beach and its lodge, with the tap room and its incredible cream of artichoke soup, big Pacific Grove with the Monarch Reserve and Fandango and various other restaurants, Flaherty's in Carmel, can't forget that. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, Monterey with its Presidio, the Royal Presidio Chapel, which is now the Cathedral of the Diocese. Lots of restaurants and the Spanish Customs House, the Colton Hall where the California State Constitution was written. Taken together, the Monterey Peninsula is my favorite part of California, without a doubt. Well, from there, you can go inland a bit, past Tarpes on the road to Salinas, hit Gilroy, the garlic capital, and then San Juan Bautista, which is another mission and is really, really a wonderful place. Then you get back to the coast and you come to Mission Santa Cruz, in the middle of Santa Cruz. And Santa Cruz, I didn't mention Ojai, because Ojai is way down by, toward Ventura, but it's countercultural too. And Santa Cruz is, yeah. I also, when I was talking about Malibu, I didn't mention Topanga Canyon and the Inn of the Seventh Ray. But yeah, there are a lot of places in California where you can really, because yeah, three of them are Topanga Canyon and Ojai and Santa Cruz. So you could really let your freak flag fly if that's what you want to do. But let's say you don't. So you pull yourself away from Santa Cruz. You drive, there are two routes you could go, but they take you over the mountains. And you will end up in Silicon Valley. There's a lot to see. The town of San Jose is the only other town, apart from Los Angeles, that was founded as a civic town by the King of Spain. And they have a cathedral that's very beautiful. Very close by is Mission Santa Clara, which is now the chapel of the Jesuit University of the same name. There's the Peralta Adobe in San Jose, which takes you back to some of the first settlers. If you go north to Fremont, which is a little ways north of Santa Fe, they have a San Jose. You will come to Mission, not San Juan Bautista, but Mission
San Jose.
Mission San Jose.
Yeah.
Mission San Jose. So you can gawk at that. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. And then we keep up towards San Francisco. Now, if you want, you can go through Palo Alto. If you do that, you'll see Stanford University. Or you can stay on the coast, in which case you will come to Half Moon Bay, which I've always loved just because of the name. And then you will arrive in San Francisco. Ladies and gentlemen, I love San Francisco. There's a lot to see there if you can get past the homeless. And of course, it was where the moron Newsom was mayor before he was governor. And the city government of San Francisco is as stupid as that of Los Angeles. And they're both fighting neck and neck with New York for the stupid ranks. But the city is beautiful. I'd recommend the Presidio. I'd recommend my favorite restaurant, John's Grill. I'd recommend the Tadich Grill. I'd recommend the Palace of Fine Arts, the Palace of the Legion of Honor, Golden Gate Park, Fisherman's Wharf, Mission San Francisco de Asís, the Spanish Mission, Chinatown, Notre Dame de Victoire, the French Church, Old St. Patrick's, Immaculate Conception, where the Latin Mass is, the Russian Orthodox Cathedral, which is beautiful to look at. Gosh, I could go on and on about San Francisco, but we're not going to. Instead, we could go in two directions. We could go to Berkeley, which is sort of a colonial Williamsburg for the counterculture of the 60s, or we could go across the Golden Gate to Sausalito, San Rafael with another mission, again worth seeing. And then we keep going. And where do we go from San Rafael? Well, you get to make a choice. You can go up Napa Valley or the Sonoma Valley and do wine tasting all the way up. But if you do the Sonoma, if you go the Sonoma route, you'll come to the town of Sonoma with the Presidio and San Francisco Solano. Now it's now in the hands of the state of California, but it was the furthest northern mission of the chain. That's as far as the Spanish got. But you keep going in that direction and then cut off to the coast, you'll come to Fort Ross, which was the Russian fort. And from there, the coastline of California gets increasingly cool and lovely. Fort Bragg, Mendocino. When you come to Mendocino, if you remember Murder, She Wrote, the Cabot Cove scenes were all, the outside scenes were all shot in Mendocino. And the hotel there is still called the Hill House of Cabot Cove. All these years later, they're still making dough out of it. Finally, you'll come to the town of Eureka, which is the farthest northern large town in California on the coast. There's a beautiful, beautiful private club in Queen Anne style in the center of town. And it's also kind of a refuge for countercultural types. Now, let's say, though, that you're kind of sick and tired of my sticking to the coast and you want to see the interior a little bit. Well, then dodging back, in no particular order, you've got Death Valley. You've got Lake Tahoe. You've got Yosemite with the Ahwahnee Hotel and the High Sierras. We've got all that. You've got Sacramento, also called Barnum and Bailey's Cabinet of Curiosities. The state capital, which should be the home of the homeless. But it's worth seeing Sutter's Fort. It's worth seeing the state capitol while it's unencumbered of the homeless. The Cathedral of the Blessed Sacrament. The Governor's Mansion Museum, because Newsom, as you saw, lives in a much more palatial place, more fitting with someone of his great abilities. Of course, he'd be living in the sewer if it was a question of his abilities, but never mind. I don't like him. Did I get that across?
Yes.
He's filth. So you keep going south. You'd actually, in this high Sierras, you come to Mono Lake. You'd come to, eventually you'd come to Joshua Tree National Monument with the Joshua trees. And then in that part of southeastern California, there's Julian, the ghost town. There's the Unarius Academy of Science and the Integratron, if you want to get in touch with our space brothers.
Okay.
And that is California.
I can't believe it. You completely left out Fresno, Bakersfield, and Barstow. I'm joking. I think like the 3 dumpiest cities. No, but
Well, you're right. Bakersfield has the Buck Owens Museum, and Fresno has a number of good Basque restaurants.
You know,
and Barstow is a dump.
Yeah. You know, in a certain sense, I feel like this was actually your most impressive state of the week. While you were doing this, I had the map up of all the California missions. And I think you hit like 95% of them. 95%.
I didn't miss any of them.
I didn't hear San Luis Rey and Santa Ynez.
Oh, yeah, I missed San Luis Rey.
Yeah.
You're right. I did miss San Luis Rey, and that's funny because I mentioned Prince of Peace Mission.
Yeah.
And Prince of Peace Abbey, which is right by San Luis Rey.
Yeah.
And well, here they are in order, ladies and gentlemen, going from south to north. San Diego, San Luis Rey, San Juan Capistrano, San Gabriel. I didn't mention San Gabriel. I didn't mention it.
I know,
either.
But you get a free pass. I mean, obviously you know it, but yeah.
San Fernando, Rey de España, San Buenaventura, Santa Barbara, Santa Ynez, La Purísima, San Juan Capistrano. San Luis Obispo, San Miguel, San Antonio de Pala, Soledad, San Juan Bautista, Carmel, San Juan Bautista, Santa Cruz, Santa Clara, San Francisco de Asís, San Rafael, and San Francisco Solano.
And San Jose.
Yes, San Jose.
That was insanely impressive. I can't believe you have that down. That ties into one fantasy I have. I don't think it probably will happen, but because I'll never be in a position in life to do that if I'm ever a father and married and stuff like that. But it was a fantasy of mine to do the ultimate pilgrimage, to do the entire mission to mission to mission to mission and walk the whole path the entire way. To be like a true pilgrim, like to live like a pilgrim and go from mission to mission. I feel like that's the ultimate.
See, I have done it by car.
Yeah, see, you have to kind of see, because some of these where I don't know how you can go from San Juan to San Gabriel in a day. That's pretty hard. So
by car, it's an hour.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyhow, that's the dream.
The missions are roughly an hour apart by car.
Yeah.
So, 21 missions. I mean, if you didn't really stop, you could do the whole thing in a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you wouldn't be able to get out and look at anything.
Right. So anyhow, wow, that was a great finale, Charles. That was really good.
The Golden State. You know what the state flower is?
I thought it was the poppy. No.
You thought correctly.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, yeah. There we go. Okay, I know some things.
It's orange, not red.
Orange. And the bird, I think, is a quail. Is it a quail? No. The state bird. I can't
Is it the
remember.
swallow? I don't know either.
Yeah.
Hold on. This is going to drive me crazy. California symbols. Oh, Governor Newsom's head on a platter. I didn't know that was a symbol.
Oh, I was right. California quail. I feel proud.
As you should. Let's see. California symbols. The state symbols, the California State Library. All right. The amphibian is the California red-legged frog.
That's weird.
The animal, the state animal, is the California grizzly. The California quail is the state bird. The California colors are blue and gold, which are the Berkeley colors. The dance is West Coast swing dancing. The dinosaur is Augustino Morrissey. All right. The fife and drum band, the official fife and drum band, is the California Consolidated Drum Band.
All right. Are we ready for the questions? This is
public.
Yeah. What?
You know what? The state fossil. State fossil.
This is weird. I didn't even know the states had these things. This is strange.
Oh yeah, the state mineral is gold.
Well, I should hope.
You know what
so.
our motto is?
What's our motto?
You know what? Eureka.
Of course. That's perfect. That's dead on, actually. Okay. That's a good one.
The official state song is called "I Love You, California." I've never heard of this. I love you, California. You're the greatest state of all. I love you in the winter, summer, spring, and in the fall. I love your fertile valleys, your dear mountains I adore. I love your grand old ocean, and I love her rugged shore. Where the snow-crowned golden Sierras keep their watch while the valleys bloom. It's there I would be in our land by the sea, every breeze bearing rich perfume. It is here nature gives of her rarest. It is home sweet home to me. And I know when I die I shall breathe my last sigh for my sunny California. I love your redwood forests, love your fields of yellow grain. I love your summer breezes, and I love your winter rain. I love you, land of flowers, land of honey, fruit, and wine. I love you, California. You have warmed this heart of mine. I love your old gray missions, love your vineyards stretching far. I love you, California, with your golden gate ajar. I love your purple sunsets, love your skies of azure blue. I love you, California. I just can't help loving you. I love you, Catalina. You are very dear to me. I love you, Tamalpais, and I love you, Yosemite. I love you, land of sunshine. Half your beauties are untold. I loved you in my childhood, and I'll love you when I'm old.
Awesome.
You impressed?
It's okay. It's okay.
I always thought the state song was California, Here I Come.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not New York, New York, you know? So, anyhow. All right, questions. This is going to be a long episode, so we're at the hour 15-minute mark. All right. So, a question from Helvicio who says, if you were forced to undergo a Dante-esque tour of hell and had to choose a guide from among the following, whom would you pick? Your choices are Virgil, St. Francis de Sales, St. Philip Neri, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Bob Hope.
Bob Hope. Not even a question. Firstly, the two saints wouldn't be there anyway. Virgil's been done. I've read Dante. And if you give me a choice between FDR and Bob Hope, not even a question.
I have to agree. I mean, Bob Hope is Bob Hope. Like, that's, I don't know. It just, The deck is stacked. I don't know. It's got to be
It definitely is a stacked deck on that. Would you rather be punched, kicked, smacked, or given a cup of tea? Oh, gee, I don't know. That one's hard.
All right. So St. John Bosco is famous for his dreams, which touch on matters related to faith and morals. The most famous probably concerns his tour of hell with St. Francis de Sales. Are you familiar with these stories, and do you have any favorites?
Not really. The only one I know is his vision of the church as a ship between the two rocks. So I can't really say I have any favorites.
I actually read his book. I thought it was called 40 Dreams of St. John Bosco. So he was Salesian.
Yes, he founded it. He founded the Salesian order.
And so he had a great school of boys, as I understood it, and he very much loved them, took care of them, and it, that was a big part of him. And so he had a lot of dreams involving that, sort of like what happens in a bad confession versus a good confession, stuff like that. But I thought actually the most famous one was one of his pupils, where he had Saint Dominic Savio. He had a very interesting encounter with him, and it was I heard Mother Angelica tell the story too. In addition to reading it, I heard Mother Angelica tell it, and basically, it was this place that was very beautiful, but it wasn't quite heaven. It wasn't really heaven, where you have golden, silver trees and a beautiful glass like lake, a silver lake, and really amazing things. And he was talking to Saint Dominic Savio, and Saint Dominic was apparently, I don't know if this is true or not. Okay, so obviously this is just a dream. I don't know if it works like this, but apparently when you're in heaven, people have certain clothing articles based on their merits, which is interesting, right? Like, I don't remember exactly what clothing item fit what merit, but for example, perhaps maybe if you were a virgin your whole life, if you'd have this red sash or something like that. If you never entered mortal sin, you'd have this. So it was an area of distinguishment. I thought that was cool. Whether that's actually the case or not, I mean, it is the best kind of achievement you could kind of hope for. You know what I mean? Like in this life where everybody's getting awards and everybody's like pitting medals on each other and stuff like that. If you've never entered mortal sin, that's kind of a big deal. You should get a medal, I should think, in heaven or something. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. That's one of the famous ones. But it's a good book. It's interesting if you're into dreams of stuff like that. All right, a question. So this is an important question for you, Charles, from a gentleman who wanted to remain anonymous.
Okay.
So he says, Dear Charles and Vincent, by the time this is read on Off the Menu, I will have turned 30. Although to a certain extent, nothing much has changed. In other ways, it feels like a monumental shift. As the day has been approaching over the last few months, I've really reflected a lot on my life so far, and I have to say, I don't feel satisfied. On the contrary, I feel a lot of anxiety and dread. As background, I am a teacher, wanted to be one since middle school, but my several years in the field have disillusioned me. And I feel that I have wasted a lot of precious time on something I want to get out of. I have so many interests, such as history, government, military, language, culture, theology, etc. Many of the topics we cover here. but they all potentially pull me in different competing directions. I feel like I would be good at many different things, but it feels to me like the time to have done and tried those things is gone. This, coupled with other things, has really made me feel like I haven't accomplished much in my 20s. To be honest, the thing I'm proudest of doing in my 20s was converting to Catholicism. And I have you both to thank for that. But romantically and job wise, I don't feel accomplished. I feel behind. And silly as it might sound, I feel like it's almost impossible to fix now. I feel like I'm playing catch up. I suppose my question is twofold. Number one, what advice would you give to someone entering their 30s so that they use them to the fullest? Number two, what advice would you give to someone struggling to figure out the right path in life, who feels they realized mistakes too late and now has no idea how to start over? Where do I begin? I apologize for the length of the post, but it has been on my mind for quite some time, and you both have always great insights with heavier questions like these. Thank you, and God bless.
Well, that's a very, very good question and worth answering. Firstly, it's important to remember that if you have a lot of different talents and a lot of different interests that are all over the map, it often takes longer for you to discover your path in life than it does other people who may know sooner what it is they want to do. But take it from someone who's 62 years old, you are far from done. And it's not a question of playing catch up, it's a question simply of going on the path that's correct for you. But you very often have to undergo a certain amount of preparation before you can find it. You've already learned a lot of skills regarding education, how to teach. What you might consider doing is going back to school in an area that you find more congenial. It might be that it's something you need to focus on. I mean, if you're in middle school right now, middle school kids can get really annoying. So perhaps what you want to do is go and get your master's so you can teach high school, or even, God help us, go for your doctorate. Now, there are only a handful of graduate places that I could really recommend uh, with any assurance. This is what I'm at, being one of them, the ITI. Not that this is an ad for the ITI, but at the age of 58, I went back to school. Of course, in my position, I had to keep up doing what I was already doing, writing this show and various other commitments. I just had to keep. I had to keep writing, doing this show, doing the various things I have to do to keep eating while I was still at school. You may not have that problem, but um, that's the one thing I think you should really think about is the possibility of going back to school in a place that getting a degree in a topic that really interests you and focusing on that. That's one possibility. Now there are other things. Uh, the as far as the romantic aspect goes, your biggest thing there is to pray that the right girl comes along. Now here's really running to the divine will for your life. If you get desperate and you feel you've got to be married, you're very likely to make the wrong choice. You pray that the right girl comes along, and if she doesn't, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Take it from me, a productive bachelorhood is a lot better than a bad marriage. A bad marriage, I'm here to tell you from having several friends involved in them, it can be hell on earth. And you want to wait for the right woman. And if it's meant to be, she's out there. So pray you find her. The other thing, though, is that you don't want to get involved romantically until you are on some sort of a life path. Now, I don't mean to say you've got to be, the president of a corporation. I don't mean that at all. What I mean is, when you've found the road you should be on and you've stepped on it, you're doing it, that's the time to really think seriously about marriage. Right now, if the right girl came along, what would you have to offer? I mean, you're keen on getting out of teaching. All right, well, that's nice. So, how would you support a wife? How would you support a family? So, don't worry about that at all. And especially, don't worry about your being too old. You're not. You're a kid. I'll tell you something funny. One of our teachers here has a 6-year-old now. At the time of our story, he was 5. Wonderful little kid called Joseph. And at their Christmas party, I was looking at Joseph running around talking to everyone and, doing what little boys do. And I said to his father, through his eyes, everybody here looks like me. But from my eyes, everybody here looks like him. It's a matter of perspective. So relax. That's the biggest thing I would tell you. Relax and pray. Don't worry. You're not a failure. Life hasn't passed you by. You haven't accomplished what you wanted to accomplish. So what? Very few people's lives match their expectations. And you need to focus on doing the best job you can with what's immediately in front of you. As I say, if you feel trapped, you want to expand, etc., think about going back to school. But as I say, choose that carefully. If you want something of theological bent, I certainly offer my alma mater here at Trumau. But there are other places you could go, I guess. A few. So Ave Maria, I guess, would be one for what's the word I'm looking for? Postgraduate studies, that kind of thing. So relax, pray hard, and relax. Take a deep breath. Don't let your emotions rule you, and think about getting some more schooling.
Yeah, this is coming from two people. I feel like neither Charles nor I really. It took us, I think, both a while to figure out what God had planned for each of us.
Well, that's not true. I knew from the minute I was 59.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Okay. But I remember something my sister said, because I was having a really tough time in the 20s, and she said, men especially have it tough in the 20s because they're supposed to know who they are. You're supposed to get out of college and you have it figured out, and then that's who you are, and then you just move forward and do the things that people expect you to do. But it doesn't work like that for most people. At least I don't think so. It didn't work like that for me at all. And some of the reflecting upon that, some consoling thoughts are, I feel like personally, because I had one of my big hangups was social anxiety. So what I like to think is that God was sort of protecting me during perhaps a time when I'm young and more prone to making really stupid mistakes, and just guiding me out of that time. And so really, I hadn't really dated anyone in my 20s at all. I think I dated like one girl like when I was 21 or something, and then like not at all. And then I guess I met my wife like I guess when I was at 30, when I was 30 years old. So what Charles's advice for that is like spot on for the girl. Don't get desperate. Okay, do not, do not, don't do that. And the other thing too, we have to redefine what we think of greatness. Like, oh, I haven't created a company, or I haven't done something great, or I haven't whatever, as if it's like um, some sort of weighing machine of accolades that you should have collected. I don't think greatness in the kingdom of God works like that. So I personally think in situations like this that it happened like this for a reason, because God has different paths for you. And I'll just leave it, say one last consoling thought, which is another way to frame it is that you haven't peaked yet. You haven't peaked yet.
No.
And I like to think that the later people peak, the better. Do you want to be the person that peaks in grade school? I actually know a friend. I have a friend, and it's one of the saddest things in the world. And these people in high school too, also sad. People in college, not so great, right?
Well, I can remember at a frat party when I was in my 20s, Cal State Northridge. I remember looking around the room and thinking, for the vast majority of these guys, this is the best it will ever be.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it hit me so hard that night. I don't know why. The thought came out of nowhere. And I can honestly say that I'm grateful to God it didn't hit me that way. There's another thing too, and that is you need to look at the stage in life that you're in and learn to appreciate it. Because every stage in your life will have certain pleasures that are peculiar to it and certain annoyances that are peculiar to it. And when you get a bit older, the pleasures change, so do the annoyances. And you lose some of both and you gain new ones. And if you're smart, you wave goodbye to the old ones and you embrace the new. Well, you embrace the new pleasures, the new problems you don't need to embrace. They'll stick with you, whatever you want to do. And I think that's important to bear in mind. If you're not a very sociable sort, I can tell you that one of the great joys of my life all the way through has been my friends. But the friends I've known longest, our relationship has changed over the years, reflecting the state of life we're in. Now, most of my friends, their children have started on some kind of path, and they're beginning to turn into grandparents. Well, what does that mean? Well, one thing, it means that you're going to sit and look at all the pictures of the grandkids when you go over. And if you're a friend, even if you're not all that excited about it, you'll keep your lack of excitement to yourself. And you'll show interest because you know that Bobby graduating from Stanford is the biggest thing in your friend's life. And if you're single, this is particularly important because it helps keep you rooted in reality. One of the downsides of being single, and this is why so many old people become really weird, both men and women, is because they draw ever more into themselves. And one of the ways you combat that, of course, is by staying close, if you're not married, to your nephews and nieces, if you have any, and failing them to the children of your friends. If you do that, you'll stay connected and you won't become quite so weird. Not that there's anything wrong with becoming weird.
That's just such a funny.
Well, it's
that was a great, perfect line to close on.
Yeah. No, there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if you happen to like going to someplace like the Mark Twain and, hiding out for weeks doing drugs, I mean, that's not my idea of a good time, but if that's what you want, or hanging out with your mother-in-law at the Mark Twain. I think that would be peculiar too, but that would be a thing. What if you had sent your mother-in-law to the Mark Twain and she likes it?
No, that's not going to happen.
You don't think anybody's mother-in-law would go to a place like that and not fall in love with it? Wow, this takes me back to my childhood. It's like the 60s. This is great.
No.
No?
No.
All right. If you're going to lay down that law, I'll go with it.
Did your parents ever comment on the Mark Twain?
Yeah, they did.
What'd they say?
It's a dump. Well, I mean, you asked.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that across the street and around the corner from the Mark Twain was another old hotel called the Hollywood Wilcox. And this was a couple blocks from the Criswell building where we lived. And my dad used to get his cigars there. They used to have a very nice cafe. My dad would get his cigars, and it was quite nice. Well, years went by. It became very much like the Mark Twain. And then it was bought by the Church of Scientology. And they turned it into sort of a slave labor dormitory. And it did that for quite a long time. But now it's undergone yet another change. It's become a restaurant, and I've eaten there. And I will tell you, I was very, very much impressed. It was really very good. I forget the name of the restaurant, so I've got to go back there and tell you the name of the place if it's still going. Oh, well, it looks like the restaurant is no longer there. I'm sorry about that. It's too bad. It was good. Oh, wait a minute. I take it back. There it is. Now let's just make sure it's still going, and then I'll say something about it. Yeah, it's a 4-star hotel now called Mama Shelter. And let's see. There's Mama Shelter. What's their dining like? That's the real question. I mean, I don't stay at places like this because when I'm in town, I sit in my own home. But that's the name for you, Mama Shelter Hotel.
There's an article in 2016, notoriously rough Hollywood hotel getting boutique makeover.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. There it is, the Mama Shelter. Eat and drink, restaurant and bar. They have a rooftop as well, a breathtaking view with a refreshing cocktail. Here's the opening. This is LA, baby, and we know how important a healthy organic diet is, so you can feel your best in the city of dreams. So you'll find plenty of green options alongside a host of Californian favorites, from homemade burgers to lovingly made guacamole. And they have brunch, which I'm sure will excite everyone. But let's see. Let's look at the food. Food and beverage options. I'm not interested in their. I'm not interested. Here we go. Menus. I'm not interested in their booze. Food. We'll skip the breakfast. It looks a little weird. Oh, wait a minute. Pork belly fried rice, grilled kimchi, carrot, sesame, fried egg, scallion, ginger aioli. 23 big ones. Le Royale burger, lettuce, tomato, American cheese, mama sauce, Hawaiian bun. Fries, Impossible patty available. $24 for a California burger. Oh, that's pretty expensive. Turkey sausage is $6. Coffee and juice. So that's the that's what they call the all-day menu. Let's go to dinner. House-made rolls. They've got a whole bunch of small plates. Oxtail juke, pork belly sesame. There we go, the entrees. Spaghetti bolognese, you'll like that. Grilled bronzino, roasted half chicken, petite filet mignon for $48. Ha! Wow, those prices have gone up since I was there, I'll tell you. All right, well. Anyway, that is the late lamented Hollywood Wilcox Hotel, now reincarnated as Mama Shelter.
Beautiful.
You don't seem impressed.
I've said this before. It's okay to be unimpressed.
The Hollywood Wilcox Hotel returns from the dead, and you just say, oh, well, so what? Big deal. I don't care. Basically, you're telling a whole hotel it doesn't matter. I bet you wouldn't say that to the Huntington Hotel, would you?
I don't talk to hotels. All right.
Why not? They talk to me. All right, fine. I know what the Mark Twain would have said. Hey, new in town.
Okay. Final question today from none other than Vendée Radio.
Okay.
All right. Alternate history question for you. So he asks, what if Emperor Frederick Barbarossa had not drowned in Anatolia on his way to the Holy Land during the Third Crusade? What would have been the alternate history if the vast imperial army had joined the French and English armies against Saladin?
Well, I think a couple of things beyond the obvious. The obvious would have been a much larger Crusader force, and thus, like their victory against Saladin. But beyond that, one of the major reasons why that crusade failed was the bickering between King Richard the Lionheart of England and King Philip Augustus of France. I think if Barbarossa had made it, he would have been a mediating force between the two of them. He would have had the biggest single army, and as Holy Roman Emperor, he would have had a certain amount of status. And neither Richard nor Philip Augustus could have accused him of being unduly favorable toward the other one. So, both because of the increased numbers and because of the inevitably increased cooperation on all sides, I think they would have stood a much better chance of succeeding against Saladin.
Okay, well, let's just go through the whole domino effect, shall we? So they beat Saladin.
They retake Jerusalem.
Is that it? Does that end there?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, the key to holding the Latin kingdom ultimately was taking the city of Damascus, which they never succeeded in doing. It could be that with these augmented troops from beyond, after liberating Jerusalem from Saladin, they might have gone on to take Damascus. And if they had, strategically, the Latin kingdom would have been in a much better position.
Do we want to go any further with the domino effect? The Latin kingdom would have been in a much better position, which means...
Well, which means that perhaps unto this day, the Holy Land would have been under Catholic auspices rather than primarily Muslim since then.
How did he drown? It was I assume it was a giant storm or something.
No, they were crossing a river and he fell off his horse and was in full armor.
Oh,
And they couldn't get him, we couldn't rescue him fast enough, so he drowned.
wow. Hmm.
Now I'll give you another
Stuff like that is amazing to me because obviously, in your words, God is not out to lunch.
No.
On such matters. So what's going on?
We'll know at the end of the world. I mean, today, as you know, is White Rose Day.
That's
and
right.
By the way, you see I'm wearing a white rose on my lapel, my Royal Stuart Society bow tie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm celebrating the 10th. But imagine that when Bonnie Prince Charlie came down to Derby with his army, in terms of what happened, his lieutenants overruled him and forced him to march back to Scotland. But what if they hadn't? What if he had convinced them to do as they were told and to follow his lead, and they had marched to Oxford and then London?
I don't know. What if? What?
What if indeed? What if indeed? And there was a interesting piece written by Sir Charles Petrie called "If a Jacobite Fantasy," and it seems to me, let's see, is this short enough to read? Yeah, it's short enough to read. It's called "If a Jacobite Fantasy" by Charles Petrie. This is a good way both of marking the 10th and lifting my hat to alternate history. So here it goes. If a Jacobite Fantasy by Sir Charles Petrie. This article first appeared in the January 30th, 1926 issue of the Weekly Westminster. Quote, there can be little doubt that the famous Council of War held at Derby on December 5th, 1745, was the turning point in modern English history. For had Prince Charles yielded to the almost unanimous advice of his councillors, he would have retreated to Scotland. And at this interval of time, it is impossible to say what fate might have overtaken his expedition. In fact, it is by no means improbable that the House of Hanover might be reigning over the British Empire today, in place of his most sacred majesty, King James VI and XI. It was the determination of the Prince Regent to advance, in spite of the apparent hopelessness of the future, that first showed the world that genius of which he gave such ample proof 30 years later, when by his visit to America, he almost certainly prevented the loss of the British colonies in that continent. The rebel army under the Elector's son had been outmaneuvered, but the prince hardly felt himself strong enough to march direct upon the capital, and he accordingly proceeded by way of Oxford, where he hoped to be joined by the Jacobites of Wales in the west. The depression visible upon every face save that of their leader has often been described by those who were with the army on the march from Derby to Oxford. Hardly a man joined the colours, and while no news could be obtained of the levies of Sir Watkin Wynne and the Duke of Beaufort, the most ominous accounts were received of the Hanoverian preparations. Nor did the situation improve when Oxford was reached on the afternoon of the 10th, for in place of the Vice-Chancellor, only Dr. King of St. Mary Hall and a few undergraduates welcomed the prince as he entered the city by what is now known as the Banbury Road. The army, by now thoroughly dispirited, was billeted upon the unwilling inhabitants, and there seemed no alternative but to retreat. I went to bed that night, one of the survivors told Sir Walter Scott long afterwards, with the vision of Tyburn before my eyes. For the prince and the leaders there was no rest. The council met at a late hour, and it became clear almost immediately that even such men as Lord George Murray, as he then was, would follow his Royal Highness no further. The council was unanimous for an immediate retreat to the north, and the prince argued in vain for a delay of only 24 hours in Oxford. It was at this moment, when the iron was beginning to enter even into his soul, that there took place that incident which has so often since appealed to the imagination of painter and poet. It appears that Magdalen Bridge was guarded by a detachment of the Manchester Regiment, with special instructions to keep a sharp lookout along the London road. The night was clear and frosty, and at about 11 o'clock lights were seen approaching at what was for those days a rapid pace. Soon the sound of wheels and of horses' feet became audible, and the guard had hardly time to parade before there burst upon their astonished sight a coach and six, driven at a breakneck gallop and escorted by a troop of dragoons in the elector's uniform, but wearing white cockades, because the Hanoverians wore the black cockades, you see. And these are Hanoverian uniforms, and they've got white cockades. The equipage was halted and the cavalry disarmed, and then there descended from the coach, with his wig on one side and his teeth chattering with terror, His Grace the Duke of Newcastle, Prime Minister of Great Britain. The panic-stricken gentleman was hurried to the prince, before whom he fell on his knees, ejaculating incoherently, "He's gone back to Hanover." It is perhaps the most dramatic episode in English history. Next morning, the inhabitants of Oxford were awakened by the bells proclaiming the second restoration of the old royal house, and the vice-chancellor hurriedly invented excuses both in Latin and in English for his neglect of the afternoon before. The prince received him with a good-natured tolerance reminiscent of his great-uncle, that would have been Charles II, and merely expressed a hope that the university authorities would be as careful of his interests in the future as they had been those of the elector in the past. That afternoon the Welsh marched in, soon to be followed by the levies of the West. All told how in town and village alike men were declaring for King James, and that it was dangerous to wear the black cockade. The king was proclaimed by the Duke of Newcastle at Carfax, which is the tower in the center of Oxford, and so highly did the latter value his services that the regent laughingly remarked, "I believe the old renegade thinks he is another Monk," meaning General Monk, who restored Charles II. All danger was, however, by no means at an end, for the Hanoverian army lay on the prince's flank at Bedford, and although the plans of the rebels had been disorganized by the flight of the elector, the Whigs had sufficient influence with the commissioned ranks to precipitate civil war if they were so minded. General Wade at Newcastle declared for the king as soon as he heard what had happened in London, and it was probably his influence which decided the army at Bedford. At any rate, the men refused to march against the prince, and when Lord George Murray arrived from Oxford to take command, his reception was everything that the most fervent loyalist could have wished. A number of the senior officers were removed from their posts, but in view of the great personal courage of the members of the House of Hanover, it is surprising how little support there was for that family in the army. Of course, the regent's patriotic refusal to allow any French troops to be landed for his support once he had reached Oxford probably turned the scale in his favor. For had he appeared to continue to lean upon King Louis, it is difficult to see how civil war could have been avoided. As it was, the arrival of the Duke of York with only a few companions made an irresistible approach to British patriotism. And that is why the House of Stuart are on the throne of Britain and the colonies today.
Wow. That's reality is a crutch for people who can't handle fantasy.
I'm telling you. I'll tell you what. I'll send you the whole thing. You only got about half of it, but here's the rest. You can post it if you want.
Okay.
As a White Rose Day gift. But no, I tell you, it would have been a very, very different thing entirely. And you remember with Star Spangled Crown, my mythical king declared that, of course, the revolution didn't apply to the House of Stuart.
Right. He had a different view of history.
Everyone has a different view of history. It's just that mine is right and everyone else's is wrong. Isn't that fairly simple?
That's so simple. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, clarity above all. But I'll ask you a couple of important questions, though.
Yes.
And I think these are very important. Firstly, would you say that the school, the public school, the church, and the home are the three pillars of American society?
No. Why did you say the public school?
Well, because traditionally it was said that the public school was one of the three pillars of American society.
No.
Okay, fine. All right, Eisenhower, Adlai Stevenson.
What are you saying?
Choice of president, Eisenhower or Adlai Stevenson?
Eisenhower.
You like Ike?
Yes.
You remind me of a song by Andy Stewart.
Okay.
I won't sing the whole thing, but it's called Post World War II Blues. And it has the great line in it. 1959 was a very strange time, a bad year for labor, but a good year for wine. Uncle Ike was our American pal, and no one said a word about the Suez Canal. Well, I have two other questions for you.
Sure.
What is it if it's Monday?
It's off the menu.
But whose soul might you save?
It may be your own. See you next time,
Fine.
everyone.
Be good. Happy Feast of the Sacred Heart.